Yeah,
And Joshua, bound by his oath, doesn't hesitate.
right.
But what's really striking is God's reassurance to Joshua at this critical moment.
Oh, okay.
Do not be afraid of them, for I have delivered them into your hand. This unwavering faith really sets the stage for what happens next.
Joshua and his army launch a surprise night march from Gilgal,
Yes.
catching the Amorites completely off guard.
Right.
It's a brilliant tactical
A
maneuver.
total ambush.
Yeah.
The Israelites attack at dawn.
Wow.
The Amorites, caught unprepared, are thrown into complete chaos.
Oh, wow.
Imagine the clash of swords, the desperate cries of the soldiers.
Right.
It's pure cinematic mayhem.
The text paints a vivid picture of the Israelite army routing the Amorites, chasing them down the slopes of Beth Horon towards Azekah and Makkedah.
Yeah.
But then the story takes a truly unbelievable turn.
Just when you think it can't get any more dramatic.
Oh, really?
God intervenes in a way that no one could have predicted.
A massive hailstorm erupts,
Wow.
raining down huge hailstones on the fleeing Amorites.
It's not just a light shower.
Yeah.
The text tells us more Amorites died from the hailstones than from the swords of the Israelite army.
Wow.
It's a scene of utter devastation,
Yeah.
a display of divine power that leaves no doubt
Right.
God is on Israel's side.
And then in the middle of this incredible scene,
Yeah.
Joshua does something truly extraordinary.
Okay.
He utters a prayer that's become one of the most famous lines in the Bible.
He looks up at the sky and commands, "Sun, stand still over Gibeon. Moon, you too over Ayalon Valley."
And amazingly, it happens.
I know.
The sun stands still, giving Joshua and his army more daylight to pursue their enemies.
It's a moment that has captivated and puzzled readers for centuries.
This event has sparked endless debate among theologians and scientists. How could such a thing be possible?
Theologically, it's seen as an incredible testament to God's power to suspend the laws of nature.
Okay.
Scientifically, there are theories about atmospheric phenomena or even a poetic description of a long day.
Right.
But one thing is certain.
What's that?
It adds a layer of awe and wonder to this already incredible story.
But the story doesn't end there.
No.
5 terrified Amorite kings, desperate to escape the slaughter, hide in a cave at Makkedah. Joshua, always thinking strategically, orders the cave sealed with guards, preventing their escape. He then commands his army to continue pursuing the fleeing enemy, leaving no chance for retreat or regrouping.
That's right.
And once the remaining Amorite forces are completely defeated, Joshua returns to the cave.
Right.
He orders the 5 kings brought out. Then, in a move straight out of an action movie,
What?
he has his commanders place their feet on the necks of the captured kings.
It's a scene both triumphant and brutal,
Yeah.
a display of dominance and humiliation.
Right.
Joshua reassures his commanders, reminding them this victory is a testament to God's power. God is with them in battle, always.
Right.
It's a moment that reinforces the Israelites' faith and reminds us, the audience, that they are carrying out what they believe to be God's will.
And the story takes another dramatic turn.
Oh, really?
Joshua orders the execution of the 5 kings.
Oh, wow.
Their bodies are hung on trees until evening as a stark warning to any who might challenge the Israelites.
It's a grim end for the Amorite kings.
Yeah.
But their deaths mark a turning point in the conquest of Canaan. From this point onward, the Israelites will continue to advance, fulfilling their destiny as God's chosen people.
Wow.
And for us, it raises the question, what happens next? The death of the 5 kings really is a turning point. Joshua wastes no time and immediately sets out to conquer the remaining Amorite cities. And it's here where we see that strategic genius of his in action again.
He doesn't just attack randomly, does he? There's a real method to his conquest.
Exactly. It's a systematic dismantling of any potential for future resistance. City after city falls to the Israelites. Makkedah, Libnah, Lachish, Eglon, Hebron, Debir. It's like watching a master strategist at work, picking apart his opponent's defenses one by one.
And the text doesn't shy away from the brutality of these conquests. It's a stark reminder of the violence of ancient warfare, even if it was seen as carrying out a divine mandate.
Absolutely. We're talking about a completely different world with different values and different ways of waging war. But even within that context, the fall of Lachish stands out. It was one of the most important and heavily fortified cities in Canaan. Taking Lachish was crucial for Israelite dominance in the region.
I can picture the scene. A 2-day siege, the Israelites battering at the city walls, finally breaching them and pouring into the city. And just like Jericho, Lachish is completely destroyed.
The defenders wouldn't have stood a chance. And to make matters worse for the Amorites, Horam, the king of Gezer, tries to come to Lachish's aid. But Joshua, anticipating this move, intercepts Horm's forces and crushes them.
It's a decisive victory that sends a clear message to the remaining Amorite cities. Resistance is futile. The Israelites with God on their side are unstoppable.
And that sense of inevitability, that feeling of watching a force of nature sweep across the land, is what makes this chapter so captivating. From a storytelling perspective, it's brilliant. You have the buildup of tension, the desperate alliance of the five kings, the miraculous intervention of God, the strategic genius of Joshua, and then this relentless march towards victory.
It's like watching a movie unfold, with each scene more dramatic than the last. But amidst all the action and bloodshed, there are these moments of quiet reflection that add another layer to the story.
You're right. There's that moment after the five kings are executed where Joshua reassures his commanders, reminding them of God's promise. It's a powerful reminder that this conquest is not just about military might, but about faith, destiny, and the fulfillment of God's plan.
And it also makes you think about the complexities of that plan. We see the brutality of war, the destruction of cities, the deaths of countless people. It forces us to ask difficult questions about the nature of divine justice and the human cost of fulfilling a divine mandate.
Exactly. And those questions are just as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. How do we reconcile the violence of the past with our understanding of a loving and merciful God? How do we grapple with the moral complexities of history, especially when seen through the lens of faith?
These are questions that stay with you long after you finish reading the chapter. And it's that depth, that ability to provoke thought and challenge our assumptions that elevates this story beyond a simple war narrative.
Absolutely. It's not just about who won and who lost. It's about grappling with the big questions of faith, destiny, and the human condition. And it's that deeper layer of meaning that keeps us coming back to these ancient stories, searching for insights and wisdom that can inform our own lives.
Speaking of deeper layers, there's one detail in this chapter that I keep coming back to: the hanging of the 5 Amorite kings on trees. It's such a specific and honestly kind of disturbing detail.
Yeah.
Why do you think the writer included that?
It's a good question, and I think it serves several purposes. On a practical level, it's a very public display of dominance, a warning to anyone else who might consider defying the Israelites. But there's also a symbolic element to it, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. It feels like a desecration, a way of denying them an honorable burial. It adds a whole other layer of complexity to the story. It's not just about military victory. It's about asserting power and humiliating the defeated.
I think you're right. And it also raises questions about the line between punishment and cruelty. Was this act necessary to secure victory, or was it an act of vengeance? And how does that fit into the idea of the Israelites carrying out God's will?
It's a reminder that even in a story about divine intervention, there are these very human elements of power, revenge, and the darker sides of our nature. It's what makes this chapter so fascinating to unpack.
Absolutely. And it also reminds us that the Bible isn't just a collection of straightforward moral tales. It's a complex and often challenging text that forces us to confront difficult questions and wrestle with moral ambiguities.
But before we get too deep into the moral philosophy of ancient warfare, I think we need to shift gears a bit. We've talked about the drama, the theological implications, the brutality. But what about the historical and archaeological side of things? Is there any evidence that these events actually happened?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And as with many things in biblical archaeology, the answer is not a simple yes or no. The book of Joshua, like many ancient texts, blends historical accounts with theological interpretations. So separating fact from embellishment can be tricky.
So are we saying it's all just a story, or is there something more there?
Not quite. It's not pure fiction, but it's not a dry historical document either. Archaeologists have found traces of cities mentioned in Joshua, Jericho, Ai, Hazor. And there are signs of widespread destruction in some of these places dating back to the Late Bronze Age, which lines up roughly with the time of the Israelite conquest.
So there's physical evidence that suggests there was conflict in Canaan during that time.
Exactly. But pinning down whether those destructions were specifically caused by the Israelites led by Joshua, that's still being debated. It's like putting together a puzzle where some pieces are missing.
So how do archaeologists interpret the evidence they do have?
Well, some argue that those layers of destruction match up pretty well with the biblical accounts supporting the idea of a swift and violent conquest. It's easy to picture those scenes from the book when you're looking at the actual ruins.
But not everyone agrees with that interpretation.
Right. You've got it. Other archaeologists point to things like internal conflicts, climate change, or even invasions by different groups that could have contributed to the destruction. They suggest that maybe the biblical account was written later, possibly using folk memories or legends to create a narrative explaining how the Israelites ended up in Canaan.
So we've got the drama, the theological questions, and now the archaeological mysteries.
Yeah.
What a story. But if we had to pull out some key takeaways from Joshua chapter 10, what would they be?
For me, it's a window into that ancient world, the realities of warfare back then, and the strategies used to grab power. It's a reminder that even stories rooted in faith are often set against a backdrop of very human conflicts.
And we can't forget the importance of faith and divine intervention in how the Israelites saw themselves. Believing that God was fighting alongside them wasn't just some abstract idea, it was central to their identity and their understanding of their place in the world.
Absolutely. This chapter emphasizes the power of that belief, the conviction that even when facing impossible odds with God on your side, anything is possible. It's a powerful message, even thousands of years later.
It certainly makes you think. This chapter leaves us with so many questions about faith, reason, the nature of divine intervention, and even the complexities of morality in the face of war and conquest.
And those questions are just as relevant now as they were back then. It challenges us to think critically about our own beliefs, how we understand history, and how we interpret ancient texts and apply them to our lives today.
Well said. It's a great reminder that engaging with these stories, even the challenging ones, can lead to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. And that's a wrap on our deep dive into Joshua chapter 10. We've journeyed through ancient battles, divine intervention, and the enduring mysteries of the past. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving